What's up, everybody? Josh from Beyond the Grave here with another true horror story. Forget your gender. Tonight it's about men, women, nature, and a fight for survival in the summer of 2005. Something that I want to do on this channel that I think is a little bit different than everybody else, at least for me, is I want to take true documented cases, animal attacks, disasters, serial killers, whatever the case may be, and I want to break them down in graphic detail, give you the backstory, and almost give you kind of like a special feature, if you will, and then recommend a horror film that coincides with what happened. Now, the problem with horror films a lot of the time is, they embellish, they tell a lot taller tales, if you will, but I just thought it was kind of an interesting idea, and really thinking about it, the ideas just kind of flow out of me, and it's just kind of a new creative outlet for the channel, so I hope you guys don't mind. In September 2005, Mark Jordan and Jacqueline Perry had been married for 4 years. They were looking for the perfect way to celebrate their upcoming wedding anniversary. What we have in this couple is a couple of adventurous, outdoor enthusiasts, and probably more akin to being Smokey the Bear's best friend than faithfully what would become their worst nightmare. She was a medical doctor from Waterloo, Ontario, and he was a software engineer from the Cambridge municipality of Ontario. And in his free time, and maybe even to keep his sanity amidst the madness of the big city, he was also a scout leader on the side, as well as being an avid outdoorsman. For this anniversary, Mark chose to spend it among the backcountry of the Missinaba Park, a provincial park in the remote northern part of Ontario. Massive. Part anniversary, part celebration for Jacqueline, who had just been accepted a new position at the Cambridge Hospital. The couple packed up and headed north for the rugged and serene Canadian backcountry. A little geography for Northern Ontario: 90% of the surface area of Ontario resides in this massive backcountry wilderness, with only 6% of the entire population inhabiting the vast landscape. For the inexperienced or even the well-versed, the boreal forest and dense geography can be deadly. Plenty of spots and terrain to really get lost in nature, if you will. The spot Mark and Jacqueline chose to camp was riddled with white water, scenic waterfalls, and lakes aplenty. To reach the campsite, the pair needed to canoe across Lake Missinaba to a secluded area known for its fur trading, game, and breathtaking nature. This story, and really Mark's sense of pride and fearlessness, was the perfect recipe for the wrong place at the wrong time. His experience as a scout leader may have been his undoing, providing a false sense of confidence for such a remote area. I mean, this is a massive piece of geography up there in Northern Ontario. Their expedition and holiday was to take 2 weeks, as far and as remote as they possibly could, and all reports concerned and considered everything and really nothing out of the ordinary took place before September 6th of 2005. The couple most likely spent their days kayaking, enjoying the great outdoors, relaxing before returning to reality with the major change of lifestyle and the city's hustle and bustle. Going from what she was doing before, Jacqueline was happy to celebrate coming back to become a medical doctor with some much needed R&R and downtime. On the morning of September 6th, everything appeared to be normal. They woke up, they had breakfast, they spent time on the water, canoeing, kayaking, whatever they wanted to do. They were in a beautiful, lush, serene, yet rugged landscape. Before returning back to camp, they were preparing for dinner. Unfortunately, that would be the last moment that they would ever spend together. Out of nowhere, from the Canadian brush, emerged a large black bear that, while unprovoked, had decided to attack with deadly, disastrous results. The black bear went directly for Jacqueline Perry, mauled her, and began to drag her off into the bush. Mark, in the chaos, was injured and bleeding, but he still made an effort to attack and come after this black bear. He proceeded to try and pound at the head of this giant black bear and attempted to remove Jacqueline by using a headlock. Here's Mark with the black bear in a headlock, pounding away at this giant bear. The bear's claws slashed and hacked through his tendons and arteries in Mark's body, as well as giving it giant puncture wounds from its massive jaws. Remotely, And with no hope for survival, Mark's true instincts kicked in. He wanted to save his wife. He wanted to save Jacqueline. In a desperate move to save her life, he produced his Swiss Army knife, and he proceeded to pound and slash and hack at this black bear's head constantly and continuously until it released Jacqueline. Stunned and wounded, the bear retreated to a safe distance while Mark, in his will to survive, packed up his wife's bleeding and badly damaged body, all on the way to the lake shore and into his kayak, screaming for help the entire way. Imagine that. Imagine the nightmare situation you have just... unbelievable. Everything's going great. You're used to this country. You're well versed. You can make a fire. You can take care of yourself. You feel like you're packing what you need, right? By all accounts, maybe you had bear spray. Maybe you had some provisions to try to keep you safe. But nature doesn't care. Nature comes after you anyway. Nature doesn't give a fuck. Nature will fuck around, and you'll find out. As he was screaming for help, by chance, a pair of nearby hikers from Pennsylvania heard his desperate shout and cries for help. They loaded the pair into their boat, and by chance, an off-duty police officer and a doctor from North Carolina were on the police officer's pontoon boat. They loaded Jacqueline and Mark into the boat, and they proceeded to try to save her life. Now, it was a 90-minute boat ride back to medical attention in the park's, main area here. Unfortunately, Jacqueline succumbed to her injuries with her fight with the bear before any help and life-saving measures could be applied. Mark was then rushed to a local hospital where his condition was stable. He was treated for infection. They had to debride his injuries, his bites, his scratches, and he left the hospital a few days later with 300 stitches. The story follows the wedding celebration, the promotion, and ends in despair. Later, Mark was bestowed with the Star of Courage for his exceptional brave acts in exceptionally dangerous situations. By receiving that award, Mark found a way to keep his wife's memory alive. Now, 2014's Backcountry is an incredible film. I love it. I recommend it to people all the time. It's one of my favorite creature feature films of all time. I think it's fantastic. It's a tremendous film. The director, Adam McDonald, does take some creative liberties with the story by changing the names, first of all, to Alex and Jen, and then changing some of the events that unfolded, some of the people that survive, some of the things that happen along the way. Unfolds, this desperate tale for survival. The director did want to convey the dramatic and true emotions to the event and the terror that the couple endured. And I would say for that, the intensity, I was not there, but from the stories that I've read and the news interviews, it sounds like he conveyed that message pretty damn well. Backcountry is a film. It's quite remarkable, and it's extremely realistic with its minimalistic approach. The methods that Adam McDonald uses, I think it's just an incredible piece of filmmaking. It's jarring, it's brutal, it's extreme, and it all, for me, works. The emotional and utter suffering that this couple goes through in the film is horrific, and I think that can happen to any person that spent any amount of time in nature where you're just naked and exposed, right? A primal fear. Anyone who spent any amount of time in the wilderness knows that feeling, and your exact nightmare happens in this film. The couple themselves are not married. That's another change in the film. That doesn't mean that there isn't some domestic issues and some trauma and some drama and tension and a little bit of hope as the film goes on. In this film, it's more like you're lost, right? You're so confident. I trusted you, and we could die out here of starvation, dehydration, not having enough water, not knowing the landmark, being full of shit, if you will. The director himself, I really like his filmography. He also made Pyewacket, however you say it, and then he made last year's Out Come the Wolves, which is another incredible survival horror thriller that I think is brutal and gory and just tremendous. For my money, none have touched, though, this debut from the director. I think the sheer authenticity he brings, the tenacity and the meanness and ferocity of the bear in this film is just brutal. brutal, dude. You know, I myself have been in numerous situations where you're camping and you're kayaking and you're fishing, you're skinny dipping, right? You run into people that you're not so sure you'd want to share a meal with, and that definitely happens in this film. Adam's camera angles, it gets you right up in the action, right up in that bear snout. I mean, you can feel it. You can smell this film. You go into the water and that camera's right as you enter the water. You're in the tent. What would your actual POV be? What would you be seeing? Would you be seeing the bugs, right? If you're bitten, what would happen? It's shocking. You're skinning some fish, gutting some fish. It's authentic. It's brutal. The film is terrific. Knives, trout, the whole thing, every movement is captured in this film, I think, perfectly. I love it. I love the sound design. I think it's way up there as far as survival horror flicks go for me. Clocks in at a mean 88 minutes. Backcountry knows not to overstay its welcome. It's trying to tell the story in a fairly simple way, and the story didn't really need to be changed that much unless you thought that this would sell the story better than what actually happened. Because what actually happened is horrific. Horrific. I don't know why there wasn't a firearm. And there could have been. I'm camping. There's a lot. There's a lot of buildup in this film. There's a lot of internal wars and waters to traverse before we actually get to the events that unfolded in that late afternoon. And when it's time for that couple to zip up the tent for the last time, imagine a snout just pushing through the tent, clawing, pushing to try to get a reaction out of you. Doesn't matter if you hang your food correctly. Doesn't matter if you put your fire, it doesn't matter what you do. This black bear was hungry, it was dangerous, and it was curious, and they get the wrath in this film, especially. I'm not going to spoil it if you haven't seen it, but what we have is a couple hiding for their life in a tent. Canvas, nylon. It's not going to cut it, dude. That's not enough in this film. Bear spray, a hunting knife, an axe, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter with an apex predator like that, probably 500-600 pound bear, you're done. Alec pushes, he tries to save his wife in this film. He does what he can. When he is wailing in agony, it is just brutal to listen to, and it's even more to watch. This is an incredibly gory scene, and it lingers just long enough to let you know that the damage has been done. The tendons, the arteries, his face, the punctures, practical effects, practical bears, none of that CGI stuff. It's just visceral, shocking, brutal, and a 10 out of 10, dude. That bear kill alone, it says on the front, a must-see, does for the woods what Jaws did for the ocean. I'm trying to talk to you like we're just having a cigarette at the bar. I don't smoke, but if I want to sell a 5-year-old, right, does for the woods what Jaws did for the ocean. Hype sticker. This is the Scream Factory release. It's incredible. It's killer. It's mean. It's got special features. Got to put it on your list. Put it on your list. Based on a true story is different than based on true events.